Welcome back to Tenza Motorsports. Today we are going to be talking about how not to build a race car. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't done this right, but there are a lot of mistakes that I've made. I'm not perfect, like most people that are just getting into the car scene or have actually done this stuff before. There's lots of mistakes that people will make on their first car. And so I kind of want to go over some of the mistakes that I've made. So this video will be really good for people that are still looking at doing a project car or a car that is basically meant mostly for off-road. And I mean off-road as something that wouldn't be for like a daily driver. Obviously this is very difficult to daily drive with the AC and the heater missing and a bunch of the electronic accessories and luxuries that the car had gone through its process of becoming more track focused. This wouldn't really be something that I would want to daily drive, and I definitely wouldn't want to leave a lot of these pieces to just sit out in the sun for no reason, especially some of the carbon fiber bits. I wouldn't want to just leave stuff like that to sit out in the sun for no reason when I've got the option to have a second car. So when I say off-road, I mean something that you wouldn't want to commute. So just so we get all that clear at first so that everybody knows what I'm saying when I say off-road. So the first lesson that I want to give is just send it. And now the reason I say that, and if you don't know what send it is, most of you do, but if you don't, basically if you're going to do something like this, have a plan and just do it. I spent a lot of time going through this car, little bit by little bit by little bit, and I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I could have sat down originally and gone, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z. This is how much it's gonna cost, and I wish I would have put a plan together a little bit better. One of the first things I do when I'm helping somebody else out is we get a car that isn't gonna be a daily driver for them. If they're looking at doing some sort of track or drag racing focused, anything like that, we get a car that isn't going to be their daily commuter, and we sit down with a plan and prices and actually lay out what we're going to spend, how we're going to spend it, and how long it will take to do these projects that are coming up. Don't be scared about what other people think. I was actually pretty nervous about this car because I didn't want people to think, oh, well, he's just trying to show off, or, you know, the car looks like a ricer. But I really wanted to make sure that the car was functional. And oftentimes people get functionality and cosmetic enhancements mixed up because they either don't know or they're just being jealous of the car that you've built. So don't let anybody else's opinions get in the way of building your car. Now obviously take that with a grain of salt. If somebody is trying to coach you and help you out, listen to what they have to say, because oftentimes they can steer you away from a situation or a purchase that might have been bad for your build. So don't disregard everybody that comes and talks to you about your build. Just kind of pick and choose and be careful about what you're doing. You can go way over budget really quickly. So the second lesson is buy once, cry once. Basically what this means is that you buy the part that you should have bought, the one that you wanted to buy, you buy it once, it does what it's supposed to do, and you only cry about the initial purchase one time instead of going cheap and having to buy the part multiple times because something had failed or didn't feel right, whatever the condition might be. Now, I have learned this lesson for myself multiple times. The buy once, cry once phrase I first heard from my dad, and he gave me some really good advice because I kept telling him, I want this, I want this. He said, save up a little bit of extra money, the $200 or $300 extra for whatever you're looking at buying, and just buy the brand name part that you know will work and the one that you truly want to buy. So we're gonna go over the biggest thing that I've had in this car that's a buy once, cry once for me, which is our seats. Now the seats in this car are some beautiful red Brid seats. Now I've heard them called Brid and Bride. Supposedly the Brid is the actual brand name, whatever you guys want to call it. I will refer to them as Brid because that is what the supplier actually told me that they're called. Now the thing with these seats is I wanted red seats. I have a white car, I wanted red seats. My first set of seats that I bought, because I wasn't about to spend $2,000 on a pair of seats, my first set of seats cost me $300 from eBay. Now with another $40 on top of that, I was able to make my own seat mounts, which came with a whole big problem on their own. Don't make your own seat mounts unless you really know what you're doing, and I didn't at the time. So as you can guess, those seats fell apart relatively quickly, and so I thought, okay, well, those lasted me one season, so I'm just gonna go and buy a set of fake Sparco seats. Now, these fake Sparco seats that I bought were from a friend, so it was kind of the fact that he just had them, and I went over to his house and bought them. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a mistake for me. So I spent another $300 on these seats. Luckily enough, my seat mounts that I made fit, and I was able to put them in the car. So now at this point, I'm $650 in, and I still have no name seats. They are unsupportive. They creak and would tilt and move as you drove around in a way that felt really unsafe. And for 650 bucks, I can almost buy one of these. So I spent $650. I wasted $650 on seats instead of just buying the ones I wanted to originally and crying the one time. So find the seats you want to buy, get your measurements, call and talk to the distributor or the retailer. Make sure you get the one that's meant for you and just buy the seats, spend a little bit of extra money, get the ones that you want to buy. Now this also relates to the steering wheel. Now luckily enough, my NRG steering wheel has actually been a pretty good steering wheel. I know it's not quite up to spec as some of the other ones, but this one has been very good to me so far. Besides the wear on it, the steering wheel is about 4 years old and it's actually performed really well. But there are a lot of mistakes you can actually make with the steering wheel. They can move around, they can break, and that's definitely not safe, nor did you want that to happen. So instead of spending your 30, 40, 50 bucks on a cheap one, step up, spend a couple $100 and buy a brand name one that you know is gonna work and would actually be worth money when you're done with it. Something like this NRG here that I've got has been okay, and I would like to eventually replace it, but I don't think it'd be worth very much resale. If you buy a Sparco steering wheel and you take care of it, you could get quite a bit of your money back versus this NRG I paid $100 for, and I would be hard pressed to get 25 or 30 bucks out of it, which is a 70 some odd % loss in its original value. So the buy once, cry once actually goes along with the first lesson, which is to just send it. So you want to get a plan in place and buy what you know you want to buy for your car. So if you're slowly going along and you buy something that you think is going to be good for now, but later you decide to do a full race car or full drag car and you end up having to take that item back out, it's because you didn't plan for it, and now you've bought a seat or whatever it is and you're going to buy another seat because the one you bought originally is not going to do what you wanted it to do. There's a huge list of buy once, cry once that I can give you. Performance wise, you've got your brakes, you've got wheels, you've got your seat, you've got your steering wheel, you've got engine parts, and not everything is performance that you want to buy once, cry once. Headlights, taillights, front bumper, rear bumper, carbon fiber parts, your hood, your trunk, even a spoiler which you could put into looks or performance depending on what type of spoiler you get. You're gonna wanna buy the one that you know fits, that you're not gonna have to modify a lot, it's gonna work for you and your setup the best, and you're not gonna have to continually rebuy something. Now the next thing I want to go over is fabrication. So again, I started this back when I didn't really know anything about cars. So you'll notice that the back of my car is actually up a little bit higher than it should be. I would like to have this down about 1 inch or 2 more than it is now. The reason it's not is because I don't know how to fabricate, or at least I didn't at the time. I've gotten a lot better at it now because we've done other projects and stuff like that. And this really hasn't been an issue until I got these wider tires. The numbers aren't actually wider, but for some reason the Proxies versus the Bridgestone Tenzas are just a little bit wider. So they're starting to rub more and it's becoming more of an issue. But this goes back into the first couple lessons. Send it and buy once, cry once. So I went through and I did this wrong and I did it myself. I did it wrong because I didn't just cut it all the way out because I didn't want to send it. And the other way, I'm going to be buying this in mostly labor, but I'm going to have to go back in here and do this again. Money is time, time is money. And now I'm going to have to spend more of my time fixing something that I didn't follow my first 2 rules on because I was kind of going slow with the car and didn't want to just do a full send on it. So we're actually doing a video on my fender flares. Later on, I'll be removing them and then cutting the fender, shaping the rear bumper as needed, and actually get this tire to sit down where it needs to be. So the last thing I want to go over with everybody is power. Don't get all caught up in adding a ton of horsepower to your car. Yeah, it's cool to make high numbers and stuff like that, but if you can't use them, if it's out of your skill level, your ability to control the car, it can make it extremely dangerous. And if you don't know how to use it, you're just wasting your money. I drove this car for a good 4 years or so with the power that it had before I started to add power to it. And once I started to add power to it, and I did it in increments, I did the supercharger and then I did a pulley upgrade, which gave me more horsepower and actually made the car run better at this elevation. but the horsepower of this car originally, and for most cars, should be adequate enough for you to basically go through and do a weight reduction, do some tires and brakes, and just learn your car. Don't immediately get into it and go, okay, well, I need this much more power. That will be faster if I do this. The majority of track time is meant for you, not picking things wrong with your car. Go through, learn to drive your car, and then start to change things. So learn your car, do your preventive maintenance, get your car prepared for the extra horsepower. I didn't just throw the supercharger kit in there. I went through and I did researching, see what would fail, what it might need, problems with the supercharger kit that I would probably see if I didn't change other parts out, water pumps, bigger radiator, that kind of stuff. Prepare you and your car for the horsepower instead of just shoving a turbo into a car that can't handle it with a driver that can't handle it. And again, this last thing we talk about will coincide with the other lessons that we've done. Learn how to do fabrication. Buy once, cry once. Buy the performance parts you know will work and the ones that you know you want. And when you're finally ready for it, send it. Do the horsepower you want to do, but make sure you and your car are ready for it. I hope everybody enjoyed today's video. We are going to be doing a video real soon on those rear fenders. I got to get those fixed so that we can lower the car a little bit more. If you have any other questions, something that I didn't necessarily go over, or if I didn't explain it properly enough, leave your comments and questions down in the comment section below. Also make sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new, and we will see everybody in the next video.